this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Get It Right Texoma. And once again, the trio is not a trio, it's a duo. Only this time, it's Terry we're missing. The last time we went through this, you were off somewhere playing in the poppy fields of someplace.
Yeah, I was running. I was skipping through the poppy fields. That's exactly what I was doing. Yeah.
I can't see you skipping.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't see you skipping much at all.
Nah.
It's not. That's
The
just
only
not,
thing I probably skip is a heartbeat every once in a while because of my AFib or whatever.
that damn chili.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the show. We get together to inform, entertain you as often as we can, and we do appreciate you being with us. Be sure to visit our website, getitrighttexoma.com, and our Facebook page. And if you have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do that as well.
So that's where we get all the latest updates.
All the latest updates, all the latest poop on everything right there.
There you go.
And more. Of course, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too, so you can get us there. More episodes, a couple more new episodes getting ready to drop, and then this one. So, and then Terry will be back with us probably next time we do this in a week or so. We really don't know where he is. He's wandered off, and I don't know.
His air tag is not working, so
yeah, that's not working, and he's got his car keys. So who the hell knows where he is?
Yeah, who knows?
So anyway. Hey, we each time we do this, we try to focus on a locally owned restaurant in our area. The reason being is because we just love them. That's why. Mm-hmm. Clearly, we love to eat. So, and good food is something that's got to be appreciated. This time around, we're talking about the Chicken Box. When you talk about legendary eateries in Wichita Falls, Texas, which is where we are, the Chicken Box is one of them.
Absolutely.
That's up in that top 5 list.
They've been around for years, probably since the 50s or 60s. Yeah. And they've been all over. They've had several different locations. Yeah. Their location is on 9th Street now. Yeah. On, 9th and...
Like Baylor or something?
Something like that. It's right down...
Denver?
Somewhere around those lines. But just go on 9th Street over by CVS, 9th and Brook, and then start heading I guess you're heading west at that point, mm-hmm. and the Chicken Box is on the left there, and they have a lot of different things. They actually have expanded their menu. They have more than just chicken now. They also have Asian food as well. They have fried rice and that sort of thing, but they do have the original recipes, and what they do have is they have a dip. Now,
yes,
the hot tip here is get the jalapeno dip. Yeah. Get you some chicken tenders and get them dipped in the jalapeno sauce.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
It's great.
It is good. They're 901 Denver is the actual address. So it's the corner of 9th and Denver.
9th and Denver. That's right.
That's where they are.
The Chicken Box. They've been around for a long, long time, and they've all the original recipes. Like I said, they've added new recipes. They have new owners. They're not the original owners.
Right.
They have new owners who are Asian, and they've come in and add some Asian dishes and that sort of thing. So their menu is more diverse than it used to be.
Yeah.
But you still have the same great recipes of the chicken.
Yes. Very good stuff. Very good indeed. So the Chicken Box, be sure and check them out if you're in Wichita Falls. And there's all kinds of locally owned restaurants around here. We got some pretty good stuff around here.
Oh, yeah.
Some stuff that's been around for a long time.
Got some stuff that's been around for a long time. Got some new stuff. So it's ever changing, and but there's always a good places to eat, and and support your local restaurants. Yeah. It's hard enough to make a living when you're competing against national brands and stuff like that, because you're not going to see the Chicken Box or Pat's Drive-In or whatever on TV constantly like you do McDonald's and Burger King and all those. So support your local restaurants.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I saw someone had shared on Facebook an old McDonald's ad. This is probably from the mid-'80s, and they were advertised to have this value box thing. And it was a Big Mac and a supersized fry and a medium drink, and for $2.85.
Yeah.
You can't buy the drink for $2.85.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
The Big Mac, a drink, and the biggest fries they made at the time for $2.85.
They used to have those. They had the Grimace and the Hamburglar, and they had all the
All the
characters
the
in their
characters,
deal.
yep. And those are gone now. And McDonald's, it was for the longest time there. It was geared toward kids. Mm-hmm. That's why you had the characters. You had Ronald McDonald. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw Ronald McDonald in an ad for McDonald's.
Yeah,
anyway.
I don't know that they use them anymore.
Pretty much abandoned that. And now you go to these new McDonald's restaurants, the new ones, Trey. They look they're almost like, it looks almost like a clinic or something, like a doctor's office.
Like a drive-through clinic.
Yeah, it's just it's lots of browns and tans and very muted tones, square edges. Gone are the arching roofs and all that's just
not very
now.
much dine-in seating anymore like they used to be.
Nope.
Yeah, they're making them smaller, more efficient. They're gearing them towards that car culture where you drive through and.
Well, they're also one of the other things that they've been working on too is fully automated restaurants. Mm-hmm. They got a couple of them that they've been experimenting with. One was in Fort Worth, I think one was in Las Vegas, and they may have opened another one. I don't know. I'm not sure how that experiment is going, but the whole idea of AI taking over everything it's now starting to happen at a much more rapid pace. Sam's Club made the announcement recently. All 600 of their clubs they're getting rid of the cashier stations.
Oh wow!
So where you walk up and you go through the line, somebody rings up all your stuff. Mm-hmm. That's going away. They rolled out an app called Scan and Go,
where you scan it,
yeah, with your phone, and they rolled that out back in 2016 or 2017. And so they've been slowly building in this direction for a while. If you go into Sam's Club now, you'll notice the floor cleaning machines are robotic. They have machines that there's no one, used to you'd have some little lady riding on it,
right, yeah, like a little mini Zamboni.
Not anymore. Now you've got these machines, they're fully robotic, they're all GPS guided, and they've got cameras and sensors on them. They're actually taking inventory in the store
while they're cleaning.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I mean, it's
the fact is you can't blame them because workers have gotten harder and harder to get.
Yep.
I mean, it really is the case. I mean, those robots don't call in sick.
Nope.
And so from a management standpoint, as much as you hate it, and we all want that human touch, but we say we want that human touch, and I think in some cases, like in our business, in Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles, in the power sports business, people want that human touch. You want that interaction. You want the expertise of knowledge.
Right.
But if you're going and buying a head of lettuce, you don't really care if there's somebody who can tell you about the lettuce or not.
Right. Do you really need as much human input and human interaction? And you're right. People are getting harder to get. And also, look at what's happened to wages in the last.
Oh, it's gone. They've gone. Yeah.
Labor has always been your biggest cost, especially in your business.
Still
where
is.
You're depending on, you need foot traffic. You need people coming through there, whether it's to buy something or have service done or whatever. And so labor has always been your biggest expense anyway, between wages, benefits, health insurance, all that stuff.
Matching on taxes, people don't even think about that part of it.
Yeah. So, all of that combined has been a huge cost on you as a business owner. Well, with the robot, you're not paying the robot wages. The robot doesn't need health insurance. The robot, like you said, doesn't call in sick. There's all sorts of things that you don't have to put up with there. The technology, like with McDonald's or whoever, Sam, same thing. The technology has a big upfront cost.
Right.
It's a big upfront investment to get to that. But then once you get that and you get the bugs worked out of it, you get all the little bumps worked out, and it starts to operate smoothly, and now you're back into more profits. At least you should be.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where that's headed. That's where that's headed. Let's talk about this mistaken deportation
of the Father of the Year.
So there's this guy that they've deported to El Salvador. Our government says the guy's got a criminal record. He's a member of MS-13. He's not a good guy.
By the way, he's an El Salvador citizen.
Yes.
He's not a U.S. citizen.
Not a U.S.
and he
citizen.
wasn't in the United States legally.
Not a U.S. citizen. And so he's been sent back to El Salvador. Now we actually have U.S. congressmen and women who are in El Salvador, at least two that I know of in the last week or so, have been to El Salvador campaigning to get this guy sent back here.
Yeah.
I know the first congressman that went over.
There's a guy from Maryland, I believe, because he's a senator from Maryland, maybe?
Yes, and I believe so. And he was denied, initially I think he was denied access to even meet with the guy. And basically told, we're not sending him home with you. That's not going to happen. We're not going to walk you guys to the plane. Everybody's going to wave bye, see you later. No, it's not going to happen. And I really think this guy may have thought that was going to happen. I'm a U.S. congressman. I show up. By God, they're going to change their. No, the president of El Salvador had already said in a press conference with our president standing right next to the man, we're not sending this guy back.
Well, okay. So the argument that he should not have been swept up and sent to that prison,
right?
Maybe that was a mistake. I don't know, even though it's been adjudicated by two judges that he was part of MS-13, and then once they've been deemed a terrorist organization and was caught up in a sweep. So whether you want to argue whether he should have been sent to the prison in El Salvador or to El Salvador, the fact is he's not an American citizen, and he was not here legally, and he was not even a legal alien. No. He did not have legal status in America. No. So what makes you think that he could just come back to America and just hang out here?
If he does come back to America, he's going to be arrested again.
And deported immediately. I mean, it's just one of those deals.
What are we doing here?
It's the portrayal by the media and the Democrats that this guy's the father year. Then, of course, things keep coming out. You know, his wife had a protective order against him for domestic violence. Oh, yeah, that's a guy that you want to hang your hat on, right?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
I don't understand. What does the Democratic Party hope to accomplish by falling on this sword? I mean, really, what do you really hope to accomplish here? What do you really think is going to happen that's going to be beneficial to your party? Because that's who's pushing this narrative right now that we need to bring this guy back. But you've got, I don't understand why they think this is an important thing for them to do. Now you've got the 24-year-old daughter of Tim Walz, the failed VP candidate this last time around. You've got her out here claiming that she's claiming that Jesus Christ would have been deported by the Trump administration, even suggesting that he would have been accused of being part of the deadly criminal MS-13 gang. Are you high?
Yeah, she's as goofy as your dad, or maybe goofier.
Maybe. I don't understand this, but anyway, one of the things that she said, Trey, I'm quoting her here. Some people don't want to talk about this. It truly is baffling how clear and laid out everything is, and there is still people standing by it. I believe in the good of people, and like humanity, humans, deep down at our core, like we care about each other.
Yeah. If you want to find an example,
I don't know,
of you're against the deportation orders and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Find a better example.
There's got to be.
Or maybe there's not. See, that's the problem, Mike. When all these people were worried about, they're going to be deporting American citizens or legal aliens, and they're going to be deporting. There's not one case.
No. Because
if as much momentum and as much screaming as they're doing about this one, where an illegal alien was deported, so there can't be one case out there that where a legal person, a legal alien, or a citizen was deported.
I can't quite pinpoint why this particular one has garnered the attention from them that it has.
I don't either. I don't get it. I think it's because they latched on,
and
then they were not willing to go, wait a minute. Maybe this wasn't the right one.
Yeah. That's unfortunately kind of a characteristic of politicians in general. they have a hard time letting go, even when they know damn well they're wrong.
Right.
Even when they know clearly you can demonstrate that they're in the wrong, and there's clear evidence they're in the wrong. They still won't quite let go of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know where that's going to go.
By the way, real quickly, I want to throw two things in. One, before we get to talk about the school vouchers. Number one, the Teacher of the Year Awards in Wichita Falls happened last night. And I know this is going to be a couple of weeks till this will air, but Logan Parrish was the secondary Teacher of the Year. Logan Parrish is a math teacher at Legacy High School, the new high school. He was at Hershey before. Logan is a Hershey student. I remember Logan. He was a year older than my two oldest, and him in high school and in band. So I've known Logan since he was in high school. Right. He's a great guy. Did well, went off, became a coach. Was really successful as a coach and a teacher. Left town for a little while, came back to Wichita Falls, and then I think this year he decided to drop his coaching duties and focus on teaching, and won the secondary Teacher of the Year. So congratulations, Logan Parrish.
Awesome.
Hershey High School class of probably 2009.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
2009. It's hard to believe that's now been 16 years ago.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem possible that was 16 years ago.
I think it was 9. Yeah, because I think my other ones my oldest two graduated in 10.
So he's mid-30s.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. Probably 34, 35.
Well, you think about it. I mean, the year 2000. We're now 25 years removed.
It's crazy
from that.
Yeah.
Where the hell did time go? You know,
just flying by, baby.
Time is a thief, dude. It really is.
Yeah,
It's absolutely a thief. Well, you mentioned school vouchers. This has passed. Has it passed through both House and Senate in the?
I don't know if it's passed the Senate. I know it has passed the House.
Yeah, I know this has been a battle. We've been going through this now for. Well, it's been a topic of conversation for at least the last 5 or 6 legislative sessions.
Correct.
If not longer.
Which that means 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, this has been going on for a while.
Yeah, and it may be even longer than that. You're right.
It may be longer than that, and we just, it really wasn't on the radar the way it is today. I think I'm explaining this correctly. The idea behind the school vouchers is if you decide you don't want to send your child to public school, you want to send them to private school or maybe a charter school. I guess charter schools are still around.
I think charter schools, yeah.
If you want to send them to a different school, you can take a portion, at least, of your tax dollars that you would otherwise send to the state to fund schools or the county to fund schools, and or your school district. A portion of that money you can take and move that over and send that to the private institution of your choice that you want to send your kid to.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And look, here's the thing. I have been on the other side of the school voucher thing. I've not been for it, but it's not because I'm against parental choice. And in general, the concept of school vouchers, I'm not against. What I'm against is the unlevel playing field. And what I've been saying from the beginning is I'm okay with parents saying, I don't want my child to go to public school. I want to take a portion of my tax dollars and go over here to this private school. I'm fine with that. As long as that private school has to accept anybody that shows up at their doors. That's where the unfair advantage is. And that's my sticking point. The two sticking points I have is that the private schools and charter schools can refuse service where a public school cannot. And the private schools and charter schools don't all have the same high stakes testing requirements that public schools do.
Well, let me try this from a different angle. Should the public schools have the right to refuse to accept certain students?
Absolutely. I've been saying that before. We would fix our public school system in a very short period of time if we did two things. One, removed high stakes testing, and number two, allowed each school to refuse service to up to 5% of their population. Right. Now, I'm not saying it has to be 5%. It could be 1%. It could be 2%.
But that's kind of the cap.
That would be the cap. You can't just send everybody home.
Yeah.
but up to 5% of the kids enrolled there. Now, the kids would have to have due process. It would not be just adjudicated by the teacher, because that's not fair. It wouldn't be just adjudicated by the teacher and the principal or the school district. I think you would have to have an outside hearing committee or something. You'd have to create something that came from the outside that don't know the kids, don't know the faculty, don't know the parents, don't know anybody that would be objective. But because there are kids, there are students who are so disruptive in our system.
I was going to say, I think more than likely you're talking about students who have major behavioral attitude issues, whatever, that are disruptive, very disruptive to the process, as you say. And those are the ones. And you talk about maybe get a third party involved. Okay, perhaps that should be someone on the judicial side, maybe a justice of the peace, maybe even a district judge. When you have a student who's truant, habitually truant, generally, in this county, that's going to go to the Justice of the Peace Court.
Right.
And that's going to be handled there. And there may even be criminal penalties handed to the parents.
Right.
In that case. So I would think you could, at least in theory, take it to that level. Because if they're a behavioral problem, if you've got a kid that's a real disruption, a real behavioral problem, fighting all the time, causing major problems, well, chances are what they're doing is not just happening in the school, it's also happening on the street too.
Well, not just that, but what they're doing at the school is they're consuming a lot of the resources, which is time.
Oh, yeah.
Not only instruction time from the teacher, but also the resources of the time of the assistant principals and that sort of thing, the discipline people, okay? So if you could remove up to 5%, what you would do is, in essence, you would take the really bad actors out of there for the most part. And some of the kind of bad actors, first off, they're a lot easier to handle, especially when they don't have that other influence. And you would also have kids that would go, I'm going to go this way rather than this way. And you would free the teacher up to do what their job is, to do what they do best, is to teach children, to impart wisdom on children, not fight with this kid constantly over here who's disruptive.
Now, I will say that, because I can already hear this argument being made. I can already hear some people saying, "Well, Wichita Falls, for example, we already have alternative schools to send these bad kids to." When we were in school, it was Denver. We called it Denver.
Yeah.
It was an old elementary school, I think.
That's what it was. It was old.
It was converted into a school basically.
It was Holland when we were in school.
Holland, yeah.
Not Denver. Denver was when we got a little older. It was Holland.
The
Holland House.
Holland, yeah.
Yeah, it was an old elementary school. Denver was the old naval station. Remember the naval recruiting station on Seymour Highway?
That's right.
It had the big anchor in front?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Denver. But when we were in school, it was Holland, which was the Holland School, which was off of East, kind of where Kell and East Scott, not where Jacksboro Highway and East Scott meet. If you look behind, there's like an old wood shop there. Behind there, that's the old Holland School. And that's where it was when we were kids, Holland. You won't go to Holland House.
Yeah. So the argument could be made that, well, we've got, and do they still have those alternative schools for these kids?
They have Denver. They still have Denver. I think they've moved it over. I don't know where they have that anymore, because they had moved it over to Harrell at one time, but Harrell's been decommissioned. I really don't know where their alternative school is.
That building's been torn down.
Yeah, and I'm not even, I guess I'm not 100% sure they have an alternative school in Wichita Falls. Maybe they do and maybe they don't. But my point is, you just have to say, you can't come to school.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're
going to refuse services to you. Right. You're so disruptive, and we've taken, not only have you done your due process through our school district, now you've done due process, and we've had a justice of the peace or a judge or somebody sign off.
Somebody's looked at this,
and looked at it objectively and said, you are too big a distraction, and we're going to refuse you services. So you're out of here.
And I think that's how it should be. I know I had been told that, like with the alternative schools, that basically you had a student who was, for whatever reason, very disruptive, causing problems. Maybe drugs were involved, maybe something else, maybe it was criminal stuff. They shuttle them off to Holland or Denver or wherever, and basically they didn't really learn anything or do anything there.
Well, I don't know about that. I think those teachers tried.
Yeah.
But how much they're going to learn or not learn is kind of up to the kid.
If
you're right, they're very disruptive. So.
If someone's determined that they're not going to do something,
yeah, you can't,
or they are going to do something, not a hell of a lot you can do about it.
Yeah, no, that's true, and so I don't believe that's the fault of the staff there. I think the staff did what they could. Now there were two different places. You had the Denver Alternative School, but you also had JJAP, the Juvenile Justice something placement, and it was over by where the Social Security Administration is, off of Wichita, off of Lincoln Street. And JJAP was the kids that were actually in the midst of criminal stuff. Like that was basically the school for the kids who were in custody of some sort.
Right. Well, and then you've got the Arthur Tips Juvenile Justice Center downtown.
Right.
I think there's don't they actually place a teacher in there?
I don't know for sure. They may, but I know the JJAP, I believe, if I remember correctly, was for kids who were in some sort of custody at the time.
Well, what's the overall just ballpark? What's the student body at Wichita Falls ISD?
I think it's 14,000 roughly now.
Okay, so 14,000. So 5%, you'd be talking probably less than 650 kids.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd have that many.
Probably not.
Because you're probably not going to have 5% at the elementary school.
No.
You might have 5% at your high schools.
Yes.
And you may have 5% at your junior high, or 3 to 5%. At elementary schools, you may have one elementary school or two that's 5, or you may have a 4. You may have one or two that's 1 or 2%. Right.
But if we could get to a point to where the public schools, but again, this requires legislative action.
Yes.
To get to this point requires, and this is where we run into problems pretty consistently, I think, is you've got a bunch of people in Austin, Texas, many of whom have never set foot in a classroom.
And they're there right now, by the way, working.
Yeah. And they've never taught, they've never been an administrator or principal, none of that. They've never done any of these things. But yet somehow they're qualified to dictate to the school districts how they ought to operate.
Well, and I agree, but there's I agree with you on on some ways on that, but by the same token, the school board, most people on the school board locally aren't never been teachers or anything either. You can't let teachers you can't let educators 100% control it.
No, but I think at the school board level though, Trey, at the local level, you're a lot closer to the issues.
Totally agree with that.
Than you are in Austin.
And I totally agree. That's why I totally agree with that part of it. I think most decisions need to be as local as possible.
Well, yeah.
Because you do see those teachers, you do see those principals, you do see people at the ball game, you see your constituents. I agree with you there that the state legislature does need to get out of it the same way that the federal government needs to get out of it.
Yeah.
But you need to have some oversight because you will have pockets. Right. You will have these backwards towns. There's still a few backward towns out there that the family trees don't branch very far, and everybody's cousin and all that.
Oh yeah.
You do need some state oversight on places like that where people are not doing the right thing. Yeah. But for the most part, I think most school districts, yes, you need to let the local school district control themselves as much as possible.
As disconnected as Austin is from the local issues, you can't get much more disconnected than Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. But see, the other side of it is get the money out of it. How much money is being made on these high-stakes testing?
Oh, well, I know in Texas alone, to produce and score those tests, we're talking millions
and there's
dollars.
People that are making money doing it.
The private enterprise is making a lot of money on that.
And when you do that, all of a sudden now you have incentives to keep that going.
You sure do. And then you got lobbyists that show up in Austin throwing around millions of dollars making the case for why you can't get rid of this.
Yeah, I agree.
It's out of hand. The testing thing's out of hand. And for the longest time, we've just cranked out a population of graduates that, in my opinion, knew how to take a test real well, but may not have known a whole hell of a lot else.
Some of them did. I mean, there's a lot of really smart kids that graduated. There's a lot of good educated kids, but
I know. But when you got
there was too much focus on the test.
Well, and I think one of the most damaging things, the whole No Child Left Behind thing.
Oh yeah, that was
very, very damaging.
Yeah.
Look, people, your children have to be allowed to fail.
Yeah.
Because you cannot appreciate success unless you felt the sting of failure. You really can't. And you really can't have an appreciation for how important your education is unless you've been told you can't go any further because you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this right. Now you got to go back and do these again. These kids, and kids, I'm talking, 12 to 18 years old. Damn it, they need to feel what failure is like. You can't just keep shoving them down the road. Well, you got a D-, that's good enough, and just keep pushing them down the road.
It was not just that. It's understand that there will be some children left behind because they or their families have chosen that.
Yes. And that's the choice.
You can't make the choice. You can't make people learn.
Yeah, right.
You can't make people. Right. You just can't. You can't make people behave.
No.
If you could make people behave, we wouldn't have prisons. We have prisons because there are people who we cannot make them behave in society.
They just can't act right.
They have to be warehoused. That's why those prisons exist. And that's why that happens.
And unfortunately, some of these young people, a small percentage of them, they're going to end up being criminals.
Most people are good people, but you're going to have a certain percentage. The fact
human
is,
nature.
What we need to do is we need to clear out our public schools, and then I'm all for the voucher program. I'm all for people having choices where they send their kids to school, as long as it's a level playing field. But right now it's not.
I will tell you this: I think it's more important that fundamental changes are made on the public side. Because if you just continue with what's happening on the public side the way it's been happening, we just let the status quo continue on, and then you pass this voucher thing, and now, okay, well, Mr. and Mrs. Smith over here can take, $3,000, let's say, of their tax money and shuttle it over here to this private school. Well, what you're going to do, private schools that are all about this, you're going to invite more and more of the state into your institutions. And some of the very problems that are plaguing the public school systems are now going to plague you because of the things that are going to be put upon you. Be careful how much you open this door.
Could be Pandora's box.
Could be a Pandora's box for sure. So just be careful. That's one of my big reservations about this is that, and I get it. Private school's not cheap, and for a lot of families, you know what? Private school's not an option.
Right.
Without the public schools, their kids wouldn't get an education. Homeschooling is not an option for them. They don't have the time or the resources to do it. So, do we have to have public schools? Yeah, we do.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, though, what you're moving toward there is there's got to be some fundamental changes in the public school system to allow the local districts to do some things differently. And that means we got to get Austin and Washington the hell out of our business as much as possible.
That's right. You have to have the backbone to say tell their certain kids, you are too bad to be at school, and to their parents.
Yeah.
You cannot control your kid. We've allowed this. We've gone down this road a bunch. Like I said, it's not the first time the kid talks in class, you're out of here. I'm talking about a long process, and I guarantee you can ask any school, especially go to ask any high school, go ask their discipline clerk or whatever, and they can probably rattle off 30 kids right now without looking at a piece of paper who need to be gone from that school, and they could probably give you every reason why they should be gone, and they can produce all the documentation that should allow these schools to say we are not going to serve you.
And these are the troublemakers that they have to deal with every single day.
They're the frequent flyers.
They're frequent flyers. They're literally dealing with them on a daily basis. And it eats up so many resources and so much time. It's ridiculous. It really is. So much more coming on that for sure.
Do you want to talk about the Supreme Court, the school district that has the books that have gone to the Maryland Supreme? I'm not sure it's Maryland. That have gone to the Supreme Court? Have you heard about this?
I heard some blurb about this.
Okay, so there's there's a school district, and we'll have to look it up. There's a school district, and they have taken the opt-out part for parents to opt out of a certain education, and they are pushing. They call it inclusivity education, but they've made it mandatory, and it is about LGBTQ whatever like that. So, but here's the thing. It's where the rub is for these parents. They're not saying we're against this or against that.
Right.
What we're saying is we don't want our children exposed to sexually explicit materials
Right.
at this age, and we want to be allowed to opt out.
Right.
And the school district saying, no, you can't opt out.
Really?
Yes. And that is going before the Supreme Court. I think the school district's going to lose. I think they should. And look, this is not a gay or a non-gay issue at all, because I don't think most gay people are for exposing children to sexually explicit material of any kind. Most gay people are logical human beings who have sound minds, and they are not for this as well. And this is I don't understand the push of a school district.
I don't either.
To say we are going to force sexually explicit content on your children, and you have no right. You have no right as a parent to opt out of it.
Well, I have
of any
heard,
kind, whether it's heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. It has nothing to do with it. Take out that part of it. It is just that it's sexual content,
right,
at a young age, and parents should have a right to opt out.
There's a story right here from The Hill. Here's the headline on this, and that's just what you're talking about. Supreme Court appears inclined to rule for parents seeking opt-outs for LGBTQ-themed instruction.
Yeah, it's opt-out. All they're doing is saying we want to opt out. Now, here's the rub on this. If I was a taxpayer in that school district, think about how much money your school district just spent in legal fees.
Oh.
To go all the way to the Supreme Court. That's your tax dollars.
It's a lot of money.
That's your tax dollars fighting a legal fight.
Yes.
That is basically illogical. I don't see any reason, any time that you cannot say, look, I'm okay with saying, parents, you can't opt out of reading class, you can't opt out of math, you can't, but you can opt out of these things that are outside reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah, you don't need to be teaching this to teach those fundamentals.
Exactly. Opt out of this is not fundamental. And once again, take whether it's heterosexual or homosexual, take all that out of it. It doesn't matter. It's sexually explicit content to children. Period. End of story.
Trey, I see no reason at all why an elementary-aged student, kindergarten through 5th grade, I see no reason why they should be these topics shouldn't even be part of their conversation.
No.
Shouldn't even be part of their vocabulary.
Not at school.
Frankly, not at home either.
I agree with you, not at home, at least if it's going to be, if they see something or hear something and they have questions about it.
That's one thing. But, I don't think anybody, mom, dad, teacher, I don't care who the hell you are, you shouldn't be sitting down with a 6-year-old reading books that cover these subjects.
No, at all.
They don't need that in their life to learn to be a part of society.
No.
That's bullcrap.
Especially, and the fact of the matter is, this goes back to more where parents need to be more vigilant about what they expose their children to. The problem is, when you have too many parents that are sitting around on their own device, like zombies, and they're not paying attention to what their children are, and they give their kid, hey kid, I'm going to stay on my device.
You stay on this one.
You stay on this one, and then all of a sudden your kid runs across something that is sexually explicit, and now you have to have this conversation.
Well, I know when my daughter and my son both were, when they were elementary age kids, because my daughter's in her 30s now. My son's in his late 20s.
Our kids are close to the same age.
When they were little big kids, they were in grade school. One of the complaints I used to hear from officials at the school is how parents wouldn't show up. You call a parent, hey, we need to meet with you. Parent won't show up. Or they'd do a parent-teacher conference, and half the parents wouldn't show up. Now, and I can speak from personal experience here with my grandchildren, you walk into that grade school now, and I swear to God, it's like you're going to visit an inmate at a state prison. You got to go through a checkpoint, sometimes 2. There's a gatekeeper. And I get why. I get why.
I understand the first gatekeeper.
You can't just leave the doors wide open for anybody to just walk in. I get that. But it's so damned difficult to be a visitor at the school and ask questions and be a part of the conversation. Now we've made it, we've thrown so many obstacles in the way. I can see why some parents would just go, I'm not even going to bother. It's going to take me 20 minutes to get into the building if I even get to see the teacher at this point. Parents, it needs to be easier for the parents, grandparents, whoever the guardian is, whoever's responsible for that kid, to be able to go to that school and go, hey, you know what? I think there's an issue. I need to talk to so-and-so. I need to talk to a counselor. I need to talk to the vice principal or the teacher, whatever. It should be easier to set that up and go in and have that conversation. But unfortunately, it's not. And so now you've got two things working against you on this front. You've got the parents who still won't show up no matter what. They're just too damn lazy and just will not be a part of anything. And then you've also got the schools who now, for various reasons, a lot of it school safety and security and so on and so forth, have now had to make it so difficult that you can't just walk in the door anymore. You got to be buzzed in. You got to go through the gatekeepers. You got to go through this process, and it's
now
tough.
I understand. I can understand the checkpoint, and I'm all for that. I think that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, you got
and you should go in. Yeah. You should present your license. They should print you a little thing, because I've done this. I've gone to schools to read to kids, and I've gone to schools to do certain things, judge chili contests or whatever it is. And I go and I present my license and all that.
Yeah.
But once you've been vetted and you're in the system, I still think you ought to have to go through the checkpoint. But once you're in the system and they know that you're not a criminal and that you're a legal guardian, that you have a good reason to be there, they give you your little sticker you stick on you and walk around, then it should be, then you go in, and part of what you have to do as a parent is sometimes you have to go in and have a conversation with that teacher and say, look, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
I want to support you. What do you need from me? Do you need me to make copies? Do you need me to do whatever? What do you need from me?
But they don't get that.
And sometimes you have to go in and kind of inject yourself there.
Yeah.
But once you inject yourself there, most of the time the people that work there are grateful for the help, and they'll start opening up.
Yeah.
So that was my experience. Now I haven't dealt with it with grandkids because my grandkids are still very young.
Right.
But that was my experience with my children.
My thing is this: I think we've got to have parents have got to get more involved. Period.
Oh, I'm telling you, you will. The more you get involved, the better off it is for your kid, for the school, for what's going on.
If you're not at least trying to read to your child at home, I mean, at least making an attempt at it,
right?
You're screwing up big time.
Yep, absolutely.
You're really screwing up big time. You got to start reading to these kids when they're, this tall.
Yeah.
When they're 6 months old, you got to start reading to them and talking to them and getting them cued in on stuff. And then they're going to have an easier time learning when they get into elementary school.
Right.
Because they've already had a little bit of foundation laid at home.
Don't wait till they get to kindergarten teaching them ABCs.
Right.
That's your job.
Don't let this thing raise your kid.
That's your job. It's your job to teach your kids your ABCs. It's your job to teach your kids to speak, to talk, and to not goo goo gaga. It's your job to do that. And then once they get into school, now they're a little bit ahead.
That's right.
So anyhow, so it's very possible by the time this even drops that this case will be heard and adjudicated on the Supreme Court. But I think it's an interesting case. And Elena Kagan came out yesterday and said, I kind of shocked on this. Randy Weingarten came out, who is the head of Teachers Union, and she made the comment that I don't think that I would want my children at this age to be exposed to these books. Okay, so if you have these people who are not conservative at all, and not MAGA people, and not on the right, and they're coming out and going, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
I don't think that this is appropriate. Why is this? I don't understand this school digging their heels in so hard and going to Supreme Court, spending $1 million in legal fees. Right. And I hope they get their asses kicked. I hope they lose big.
And my message to those people up there in where's this, Delaware? I think it's in Delaware. Maryland, Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yeah.
Here would be my advice to you. Your school board is it's an elected body.
That's right.
Keep notes.
Clean house.
And clean house when the time comes.
Because they're allowing it. Because I guarantee, if I say that, I don't know what Maryland school systems are like. But in the state of Texas, the school board holds the purse strings.
That's right.
So if a school district wants to sue somebody or wants to take something to court, the school board has to vote to do it,
Right.
to spend the money.
Right.
So if it's the same system up there and your school board is allowing your school district to spend millions of dollars in taxpayer money, because it ain't cheap going to the Supreme Court. It ain't free.
There's got to be some similarities to how the financial side of this works. So
I would hope.
keep this in mind when elections come around, and maybe some of you who are opposed to this, maybe you need to step up and run for your.
That's the other side of it.
School board.
Yeah, don't just say somebody needs to. Yeah. You need to. Yeah. Try to fix a way.
Inject yourself into this.
Yep.
For sure. All right, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Get It Right Texoma, brought to you by Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles, 401 North Scott, downtown Wichita Falls. There since 1966.
Yep.
And you're not just motorcycles. You're not just side-by-sides. Your accessories. You've got Hustler mowers, correct?
Full service.
Full service.
Now we have the Crest robotic mowers. We're starting into that.
Yep.
So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on at Eddie Hill's.
Yeah. Power sports and more.
There you go. And more.
And more. Much more at Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles. EddieHillsFunCycles.com, the website. We record our podcast in the MacTech Solutions podcast studios. MacTech Solutions at 4020 Ray Road, Suite 3B. Here in Wichita Falls, your Apple authorized reseller and your Apple authorized service provider here in North Texas and Southern Oklahoma is MacTech Solutions. Whether it's for personal use or business to business, whatever it is, they've got a solution for you, and they've got help for you as well. And if you've got an Apple device that needs repair, this is the only place to bring
That's right. Let
it
the
to.
experts at MacTech Solutions take care of you.
4020 Ray Road, Suite 3B, MacTech-Solutions.com. And also brought to you by Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, your online bakery featuring some fantastic chocolate chip cookies, pecan pies.
Oh, yeah. Chocolate chip cookies are awesome.
And king cakes. We're making them as fast as we can, for crying out loud. These things are they're beasts, and they just caught fire. Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, LOLLIE, Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop on Facebook and online at lpsweet.com. You guys take care. Thank you for joining us. Be sure again to visit GetItRightTexoma.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Y'all take care of yourselves. Until next time, we'll see you down the road.